Now, the Prime Minister has vowed to clamp down on migrants claiming asylum in the UK who arrive via small boats.
Yes, Rishi Sunak has made stopping small boats one of his 5 priorities for 2023, with reports suggesting new laws will soon be introduced to combat them.
Now, currently, people who come on the small boats have right to remain in the country to have their case heard. But could that be set to change?
Well, joining us now is political commentator Lettice Bromovsky, who's sat in the studio with us now. Good morning.
Good morning, babe.
So, big splash on the Mail today. Rishi, make no mistake, I'll deport Channel migrants, and it's set to introduce laws we're hearing this week. Tell us a bit more about this.
Exactly. So this has just come out, and it's a new legislation they're proposing, hopefully on Tuesday is the plan, to essentially make asylum claims inadmissible if you are coming over here on a small boat crossing the channel, and also give the government powers to then deport you to Rwanda or another safe third world country, is what they've said. And really, I guess this is clearly another step in Rishi's plan in the lead up to the general election to win back voters. This is a very important topic for voters. It's very popular, and really it's something that resonates with a lot of voters at the moment. So last year we had 45,000 people come across the channel, and this year alone we've already had 3,000. This is a serious issue in this country, and people need it to be handled.
Yeah, the problem with all of this, though, is he's making, as far as a lot of the voters are concerned, he's making the right noises.
Yeah.
You know, if you come here in a small boat, you know, you cannot claim to stay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Legally, he may not be able to do what he can fulfil his promise and he can put the legislation through, get it through Parliament, but it doesn't mean it's going to go through the courts.
Well, exactly. And this is the opposition and the struggle that he is very much going to come up against. How is he going to get this through without breaching the UN Refugee Convention, coming up against the European Court of Human Rights, the Human Rights Act? We've already seen before with the Rwanda plan the huge issues and opposition from human rights groups that the government came into, and essentially that made the Rwanda plan fail, as we saw those original 130 migrants who were meant to be on that plane slowly, one by one, essentially taken off until that plane did not take off at all. So really what we're seeing is the government now just setting themselves up for failure. He's going in with a very hard line in an attempt to deter these boats, deter these gangs and these people who are being exploited. But really, is it just going to fail in the end?
When you see these headlines, don't you? I mean, I read this morning and I said, well, that's not going to happen, because with Rwanda, not yet one person's been actually on a flight and which managed to take off. So, I mean, it does make you feel as though these things just won't get through the courts. It then asks the question, doesn't it, really, why Rishi Sunak made it one of those 5 key promises, I will stop the boats, because it seems like an impossible task. Currently, nothing has worked. It's been something that's plagued the government for the last 4 years, but nothing so far has managed to deter people from getting on those small boats. It seems like, he's set himself up for failure.
No, exactly. And the worst thing that we're seeing come out of this is the danger people are willing to put themselves in. It was just over a year ago that we had that awful accident where 31 migrants who were crossing the channel capsized and they all drowned. And actually, even just this week, this isn't just UK issue, but migrants in Italy, 59 of them are now said to have died in a boat that capsized crossing from Turkey. We don't want people to be risking their lives for this, and it really needs to stop with the gangs. That's the main thing.
I tell you what's interesting, though, with all of this, because everything is part of the political game, whether we like it or not. He's going to struggle to get this through. It's not impossible, but he's going to struggle. What it does do, if it proves to be very, very popular with the public, it puts Labour in a difficult position, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And if it proves to be very, very popular, it shows that Rishi is willing to take those steps. If it says, you know, the public comes out and they're very supportive of it, it'll give the government more backing. It might give them a bit of a boost in the polls. And this is really what they're looking for. Yes, he wants to change this, but there is a lot of this that it doesn't explain either. For example, it hasn't said anything about what they're going to do with the backlog of 166 migrants we currently have in this country. It is only talking with forward-looking. So really, there's a lot of other issues that aren't going to be solved or explained with this legislation.
Should we look at something different now, and the Privileges Committee, their interim report into Boris Johnson and whether he misled Parliament. How serious is this looking, do you think, for Boris Johnson?
So I think it's looking much more serious. The Privileges Committee have come out and said that they have strong evidence that he has misled Parliament on 4 separate occasions. We've seen recently more of these images come out which show Boris in meeting rooms in Downing Street, and there's food and drink and wine in some cases on these tables, making these gatherings look not like the business meetings that supposedly they were, but more social gatherings, which at that time were banned. So if he is found to have held Parliament in contempt of Parliament, then he will be forced to potentially have a by-election, because he could be suspended for a period of longer than 10 days. And if the Commons agrees, then he could be forced to have a by-election. So he is currently fighting for his seat in many ways. Obviously, there are many steps in order to get to that stage. But, you know, this is the reality of the situation.
Meanwhile, we've got to touch on the latest Matt Hancock.
Yes.
WhatsApp messages. He wanted to... There was talk about when a new variant came out. This is the latest splash in the lockdown files in the Sunday Telegraph, frightening the pants off the public. I mean, but look, it's a turn of phrase. There was real concern. I don't know which variant it was. But
Kent variant.
It's the Kent one. So there was a lot of genuine concern. So it's...
Yeah.
I mean, the language doesn't sound great, but it wasn't meant for public consumption.
Well, it wasn't meant for public consumption, but it is the language. It is the casual use of it. It is the sort of, let's do this, the sort of trying to manipulate it. I also think what the Telegraph have done, they've sort of juxtaposed this piece next to Isabel Oakeshott's piece, just below it on the front page, which talks about a 15-year-old boy who actually ended up taking his own life in the pandemic because he was so scared of everything that was going on. And yet you have our politicians here talking so casually about things that just weren't that casual. And it sort of shows the leadership that we had at that time, and it's all just quite disappointing to see.
And it is worth remembering at the time that we just didn't know what we were facing, right?
Yeah.
Many people were genuinely scared.
No,
that's
absolutely.
A lot of people remember that very vividly.
And people still do. Even now you see people travelling on the trains. Some people will not take off their masks anymore. They will wear them permanently because they think that that's what's keeping them safe, and they still have that fear around what happened. It was an incredibly serious time for us, and these WhatsApp messages are, I think, quite harrowing for a lot of people to read, to see how they were being interpreted in the highest levels of government.
OK. Lettice, thanks very much.